absolutely destroyed. I mean, and before anybody gets smart and saying, "Oh, Tua got exposed. This offense got exposed." No, we didn't. We were playing in Buffalo.
Think about your main contenders in the AFC this year. The Chiefs have a really good pass rush this year. The Bills have a really good pass rush this year.
Oh yeah.
I can trust them in the regular season enough, but once they get in the playoffs, I don't have any trust. Especially if James Harden turns out not to play. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of On the Board Podcast. This episode, we're going to be a little bit of a mix-up. We're going to talk about some Drew Holiday stuff, a little bit of MLB playoffs, and then we'll go into our usual NFL weekly predictions and weekly recap. Starting with Drew Holiday trade. Drew, what you thinking about this?
So we get Drew Holiday gets flipped from the Blazers to the Celtics, and I think that kind of steps up the two top teams in the East. I don't think the Sixers are up there anymore, especially with James Harden going out, and him and Daryl Morey are very publicly beefing right now, which is hilarious to me. And I mean, I think it's literally 1A, 1B with the Celtics and the Bucks, because if you look at that, those two starting lineups are just stacked. The Heat were the 8th seed last year. I don't want to hear it.
I still think they should be in the discussion just for.
I understand the playoff performance argument, but also you have to be able to win games.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm just saying in terms of, I think they're above what I saw with the 76ers. I don't trust the 76ers. I can trust them in the regular season enough, but once they get in the playoffs, I don't have any trust. Especially if James Harden turns out not to play. I mean, that's an issue. But yeah, this is undoubtedly, I think, it's just a straight up upgrade to the Celtics. Honestly, this is a perfect trade for them to make. No real big loss I can see coming out of this trade unless Drew Holiday falls off the face of the earth. But that shouldn't be for another 2 or 3 years, and they're in contend now mode, so I think he should be fine for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and the thing with Miami is they're always in contention because coach is Eric Spoelstra, who is arguably a top 5 coach of all time, and their GM is also really good. Pat Riley.
Yeah, yes. Pat Riley's good, except for he sat around all summer.
Yeah,
didn't upgrade his offense. Portland. And then Portland.
Hey, don't disrespect Pat Riley.
I'm not disrespecting Pat Riley. I'm criticizing him for this one thing.
Pat Riley.
You have one of the best point guards to ever play the game say he only wants to play for your organization, and you somehow end up with him on your main rival of the past couple of years. So that's just a fumble.
So for Boston, you're getting your first real point guard they've had in years, because the past few years they really haven't had that solid starting point guard. They had Derek White,
Marcus Smart,
and kind of Marcus Smart, but they never really played the traditional point guard role. They're more, to me, as a shooting guard position. So they're finally getting that traditional point guard. I think in terms of what they're also getting with Porzingis, they lost a big defensive anchor in Robert Williams. Would you kind of fill that role? Probably not as good as Robert Williams, but Porzingis is going to score. He'll play defense as well. But I think that when you look at the Eastern Conference, there's really only 4 teams you need to pay attention to. That's Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Miami. But the Sixers, I would honestly put them below the Heat because I have questions about James Harden. You make a good point. The Heat sat back and did nothing this entire offseason, and everyone was thinking about how Lillard could go there, how a number of other guys, even I think it was this past year when at the trade deadline, they were thinking they were going to land Kevin Durant. I mean, you had all these superstar names potentially playing for the Heat, and they come away with none. As there's going to have the same team as they had in their 2 finals runs. Obviously, they lost. I think they lost Gabe Vincent and Strus, but they're still going to be there.
Strus is going to be
I don't
a bigger
think I can
loss
trust Philadelphia. Right, and I think I can trust Miami to get through the regular season and probably the postseason.
Can we?
But I can't trust. Yeah, I can because it's the same team they've had minus the two shooters. And Tyler Hero is going to come back too, so I think he's going to take a big step. But I can't trust Philadelphia, and I would look towards somebody like Orlando or Atlanta to fill the Sixers role and that fourth spot in the East.
Literally,
I think it's less me trusting the Heat than me not trusting the Sixers. I don't necessarily. I have less faith in the Heat due to losing Strus. I think that's going to be a bigger impact than people really can even imagine. I think that a lot of their thing was that our bench is so ridiculously deep, full of shooters, and you're not going to get rest for that. I still have far more trust in the Miami Heat and emo Jimmy Butler than the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid, who is currently delusional, thinking he's like a top 2 team.
The entire situation that the Sixers are in right now can be really just traced back to them paying Tobias Harris instead of Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
They had one slot for a max contract, and they said they wanted Tobias Harris instead of Jimmy Butler. And that was maybe the biggest mistake. I would not be surprised if they had kept Jimmy Butler if they had a ring by now, if they had kept him.
Yeah.
They could have gone on the way in 2019.
They made the wrong choice.
Right.
They made the wrong choice, and now they're suffering pretty dearly.
This sucks for Tobias Harris because he's not a bad player. He's just not max contract.
Yeah.
No,
Tobias Harris is a fine player. He's like 15 a game on pretty solid efficiency.
Yeah.
Except they're paying him $40 million for it.
Yeah, and your other option is Jimmy Butler, who is currently
one of the premier guys.
A superstar.
Right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wanted to touch.
I gotta go off of
touch on that Celtics defense real quick. Losing Robert Williams is big, but
At
based on what they got back, it almost seems like Williams was kind of a bit of superfluous piece because they have the interior defense. Tatum's a great two-way player. You've picked up maybe the most premier two-way guard in the league over the past few years. Drew Holiday is an absolute lockdown defender. Jaylen Brown can turn it on when he wants. He's an athlete. He can get down and play defense. And Porzingis is a shot blocker.
And Porzingis
he's not
been steadily improving.
He's not going to body anybody down there, but his wingspan really just allows him to get up and block shots when he needs to.
One thing is, Porzingis has been steadily improving over the past few years.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see how he performs in Boston versus in Washington.
Yeah.
I think a big part of his success last year was he kind of got to do whatever he wanted and was in a very small market on a bad team versus now he's on the most historic franchise in the NBA.
Yeah. I still think
over the Lakers?
The Celtics are the NBA franchise, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I want to go off of the point Jack said. Jack, you said the Sixers could have won it all in 2018 or whatever.
There we go.
And I think the issue with them is not about James Harden, even though that is an issue now. But Drew, you said it. They let Jimmy Butler walk. That team was good. That team was one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and they lost barely by the chance of luck with the Kawhi buzzer beater. If he misses that, who knows? Maybe they win in overtime. And honestly, I think they would beat Milwaukee in the conference finals, and they probably win the finals. So I think the whole thing and obviously this is a few years back, but letting Jimmy Butler go hurt them because it gave the Sixers that 3 spot, and that's something that they still don't have. They don't have a small forward that they can get the ball to. Tobias Harris usually plays the 4, Embiid is the 5, and then you've got Harden and Maxey. So you need that one guy to fill it, and it was Jimmy Butler for the longest time, for a year or two or something, and they played well with him. So I think with them, they need to get that small forward position locked down because we saw a few years back when they had Butler, they were one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And not having that 3 spot and that small forward player, like that all-around scorer
I
type of
think
guy,
actually
it's
right now,
really hurting them.
Tobias Harris plays the 3 and PJ Tucker plays the 4. But
Yeah.
the problem with that is PJ
Right, but
Tucker,
I don't think Tobias Harris is a true 3.
He's not, and PJ Tucker is not. He's basically a
Or-
non-factor on the offensive side of the ball.
He doesn't do
He
anything.
gets boards and he defends, but he does nothing besides shoot a couple corner threes a game for them. And he plays starter minutes, and it just doesn't work.
The one also thing you have to think about is that back then, I mean, even then, I think the writing on the wall should have been clear to see that it is consistently very much easier to get a good power forward than to get a good quality small forward that'll get you good minutes, especially now with guys like Banchero and a bunch of guys in the draft being these power forward hybrid center guys who are more inclined to play the power forward as opposed to switching between old where we were drafting guards in the first round consistently. Like, it's hard to get a good small forward now. Personally, at least that's my opinion.
Well, that's interesting to say because I think I feel like we're kind of using that term small forward as I feel like that's an outdated term. I think you've got a little more fluidity on the court now between the 2, 3, and the 4.
Exactly.
I think the only true positions there still are in your standard NBA lineup are the center and the point guard. But these wing guys, like Jason Tatum, what is Jason Tatum? He can play the 4 easily, but he can also play the 2.
Yeah, he's 3.
He's technically like if you look at their lineup, he's the small forward, but he can play any position from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
So I mean,
right, and
those guys are in such abundance right now because that's the hot thing is a big guy with a handle that can shoot, and that's what everybody wants to be now. So that's also why you see this thing where there's like no American big men anymore. The best one is Bam Adebayo right now, who is no slouch. He's a very good player, but he's not a top 5 big in the league right now.
Adebayo's not like the American.
Yeah, he is.
Right, and I mean, back to he is. Back to the small forward thing. It's usually more about because the small forwards are usually the most players that can score all around the court.
Yeah.
And they can match up. Philadelphia has never had that, with the exception of Jimmy Butler, and if you go back a ways, Andre Iguodala. But this is why when LeBron went to the Lakers, remember it was between the Lakers and the Sixers. LeBron should have went to Philadelphia because imagine how good they would be right now. That would have been unbelievable if LeBron went to the Sixers. Obviously, it worked out because he won with the Lakers, but when you're looking at Philadelphia from like a matchup perspective, like that's been killing them all throughout because they've made the playoffs.
Tobias
if you
Harris
take them from,
is not a great defender, and that's the biggest problem.
He's not. No, he's not. And they
now
need
you
somebody.
have all these guys like Jason Tatum, who are these scoring all around. Like Jason Tatum will hit you with a 30-foot bomb, and then he'll dunk on you. And there's those guys at this point. Obviously, Jason Tatum is better than most of these other guys, but like every team has one of these players, and Tobias Harris can't guard him, and it really just kills him because then Embiid's getting driven at every play. Harden can't guard anything.
No, Harden doesn't play defense.
Harden doesn't do much of anything really, besides throw the ball to Embiid.
And we probably won't see that because he's
the only player I would say right now who's elite on that team, unfortunately. If they had Butler, this is a totally different story where you have 2 elite players and then the Harden who knows what happens. Maybe he's still happy and maybe he's accepted his new role because he's winning championships now. We don't know what happens there. I think with Butler, this is a completely different team, completely different organization. And as opposed to what we're facing now, which is high uncertainty that this process.
Huge culture problem too.
Oh, it's terrible! It's terrible.
That seems to follow Jimmy too, or not follow Jimmy, but you seem to see that he got forced he forced his way out of the T-Wolves because he didn't like how things were being run there, and that's sort of the same situation you have with the Sixers, where you have this uber talented big man in Cat, and then the Sixers have Embiid, obviously. But when Jimmy Butler's on that team, they're very young, they're immature, they're not willing to go to the lengths that he is, and it's also different backgrounds in terms of the draft and pre-pro career, but they don't have that same intensity that Butler brings, and then they end up not liking each other. They're good on the court, but they don't mesh off the court, and so he gets traded, or in the Sixers case, they didn't trade him, but they let him walk because they knew Embiid and him were not going to get along. Because Butler does not go along with like the throwing in the towel and being immature like that on the court. And it was Ben Simmons and Joel
totally
Embiid, which is fair. No,
totally
I think
fair.
I'm on Butler's camp here, but I think Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were the reason Butler didn't go there, and the Sixers front office didn't have the foresight to understand that building your entire team around two young players when you have a guy like Butler in your locker room to help mold them, letting that guy walk is not the right idea.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's other teams that are like, the Hornets are another great example of that, except they never had that veteran presence around them. That was just a fully young team who had no leadership at the helm, in my opinion.
Like
around
this year's Hornets?
Yeah, this year's.
So like LaMelo and those guys, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that squad. That's
they had Gordon Hayward.
Leadership.
Gordon
Hayward.
The ghost of Gordon Hayward.
Yeah. There has to be some level of production, too, there.
Yeah.
You can't, that's a rare exception, but for the most part, you can't just have a veteran who's not going to provide any sort of on-the-court presence. He has to provide on-the-court presence in some way, and that's what Jimmy Butler does. And that's why I think, arguably, Jimmy Butler to a team is arguably, if they follow around his system and what he knows will work, he's one of the most valuable players in the league.
Yeah, I think Charlotte's going to be a much better team this year. They're still pretty young.
Well, yeah, what a surprise.
They had a really good draft.
If LaMelo could stay healthy, they'd be so good.
I mean, Brandon Miller, say what you want about what happened in January, he's still a really good player. He's really athletic, and
most NBA players are.
Yeah, generally, I can name like 5 good athletic NBA players, but not Jokic, and then
just exclude Shaquille O'Neal from the Celtics.
Exclude Jokic and O'Neal, and you're fine.
Yeah,
late stage.
Either way, yeah, Miller was. Miller as a freshman was an All-American in Alabama. I think was.
Do you have to listen to Jack? Do you have to listen to Jack?
No, I'm not.
We have to listen to another Jack.
I didn't sign up.
Hold on.
No, I'm not. I'm not going off on that. I'm just saying he was. I'm just stating the facts that he was probably one of a top 5 player in the country last year. And and then Nick Smith, who didn't play that much at Arkansas because of an injury, he was still really good. And when he came back, he was a key part of the Arkansas team going decently far in the tournament. And Nick Smith is going to be. I think he might be one of their more underrated picks that they have. And Charlotte won't make the playoffs, but they'll probably be like outside looking in.
Okay, so here's the thing. With the whole thing about Brandon Miller, I get it, and I agree with you, but I think that naming their collegiate accomplishments, that doesn't really translate into the NBA. Just look at Doug McDermott. But I think the thing that I agree with you with is with the Brandon Miller thing, not because of whatever he did in college or whatever, or how many awards he won. I don't know if he won the Player of the Year, whatever. It's how his game complements LaMelo Ball and the rest of the Charlotte offense. He's that small forward position, and they needed that. So I think now when you have, do they still have Rozier on the team?
I have no idea. I don't know where.
Let me pull that up right now. Let me pull that.
Double check this.
Yep.
So if they do, they're going to have 2 competent backcourt guards. You have an all-star in LaMelo.
Terry Rozier's no slouch.
First picture you pick when you search up Terry Rozier, him with his tongue out.
Yeah, he is on the Hornets still.
Okay, so that's 2 scorers and a guy who excels at passing on offense with the backcourt. So your backcourt is set for Charlotte. You've got Brandon Miller, and then you've got... Who was the guy that just got in trouble for something?
Oh,
P.J. Washington, and then the other guy.
Kai Jones.
Yeah, him.
Oh, my God.
So the 2 of them. that's a solid lineup right there. And
They
considering
still
how
have Miles
bad the
Bridges, too?
East is,
I don't know if they are.
they might.
I think they probably shouldn't in terms of public image and morals.
But he's
But
so good at basketball.
he's really
Yeah, but I don't
good.
think they bring him back.
No,
then,
I mean Bridges isn't even necessarily all like a starter caliber guy, but he's a good bench guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's probably starter caliber, but I don't think he starts over Brandon Miller.
No.
He's starter caliber.
Because-
for, like,
Not over the number
Bulls.
3 pick, no.
Yeah, I mean, they have a chance to build that offense and really contend in the East, in a bad Eastern
I mean, it all
Conference,
just
that is.
it relies on LaMelo Ball's ankles, frankly,
Yeah, that's true.
and Puma
That's
design,
what
design
if
him to
what if
shoot
the
at peak his ankle.
Ball brothers and ankles, man?
I don't know, man.
Knees.
Well,
After the top 4 and the, oh
all
my
right, well,
god.
just keep going. That's fine. He's coming back.
After the top 4 in the East, I mean, the East is really weak. After that top 4, Milwaukee, Philly, Boston, and
Cleveland.
maybe, yeah.
Cleveland's probably my
It's
4th
not
seed.
Good.
Yeah.
I
They're
know,
young,
I-
but they're still really
This
good.
this Eastern Conference, I think, gets a lot of crap because it's not as competitive as the West is. Like the West right now is uber
Yeah.
competitive. Like 2nd through 10th,
Yeah.
like the gap is almost negligible. And then
Mhm.
you get into the East, and the bottom teams are way worse. But then think
Funny
about it:
thing
you've
is that
got
the top-
you've got Milwaukee and Boston up top fighting for the 1 and 2, and then you get this second tier of teams. You get Philly, the Knicks. The Cavs, the Heat, I think, are in there.
Bulls, if they somehow find a way to be healthy, which they
Well,
won't.
the Bulls with Lonzo are in there. The Bulls without Lonzo are firmly not in there.
Yeah.
And,
If they
and then
ever
you get
find a way to be
your
healthy,
lower
they
tier
will.
of teams. You get like the Hornets and
Bulls
stuff like
without
that, and the
Lonzo.
Magic. I mean, I think the Magic are going to make a little noise. but
Magic could sneak their.
The Magic are a good
There's
team.
an argument
They can
for
be-
Magic
the
sneaking
East,
their way
the
up
top
into
of the
that
East
second
is
tier.
very strong right now.
The issue with the West is that for how uber competitive it's going to be during the regular season, if everything goes to plan,
Everybody
which
just
it
gets
probably
washed by
won't,
Denver.
everybody gets killed by Denver, and that's the end of the story. And then Denver destroys whoever decides to meet them in the championship.
I think there is a huge gap between Milwaukee, Boston. I think that honestly,
Other than the Celtics, I think Celtics are
Yeah,
probably
I think-
one team where I'm like,
I think
They
the
could
best
square
4
up.
teams right now are Denver, Milwaukee, Boston, and Phoenix in that order.
I think that's fair.
And
I think
it's
Phoenix
very close.
is
It's very
Boston.
close. It's
I'm
I'm skeptical
can-
about Phoenix. I don't know if the Bradley Beal experiment's going to work, but he can
Yeah,
still
I'm a
ball.
Phoenix correspondent right here. Phoenix correspondent right here.
I still don't know why Phoenix fired Monty Williams. He was
No,
not
that
the
makes
I'll
no
problem.
tell
sense
you
to
why
me.
Phoenix
That makes no
does.
sense.
Well, what's
to
the
me.
problem then?
Because they're kind of stupid.
Ayton was the problem. He didn't play defense.
No,
he didn't
DeAndre
care
Ayton
to try.
wasn't the reason they lost. They just didn't have the right kind of team. But I think Monte Williams was.
You're not. I mean, but you're
here's
not.
the thing about the Suns. You can't trade for a guy like Kevin Durant and win the championship in half of a year. Like, you know what I mean? They got him for like a quarter of a year or something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't win. The fact that they made it to game 6
And the
of
fact
the
that they gave the Denver Nuggets
semis.
a bit of trouble.
like that,
Arguably,
that's,
they
and they
were really
played
the
like
only
half a
team to
year.
get
I mean, you
nuggets.
can't. I don't think you can judge them off of half of a year, basically, because that was a very different Phoenix team in May than
Oh
they
yeah,
were
very different.
in
Very
September,
different roster.
November, or whatever.
And
So,
Who's
but
their-
I would keep an
who's-
eye out for
Who's
that.
bringing the ball up right now? Because you've got
Devin
like
Booker.
2 true shooting guards on the roster that are both.
I think
Booker.
Booker's the guy that'll bring
Probably
it up.
Booker, yeah.
Beal,
I think-
Beal's not going to be able to do that, Booker. Booker can do that. It's not his strong suit, but I trust him to do that over Beal.
So,
Mhm.
but when you're looking with this team, though, you got to be careful because there's a lot of guys who can get the ball, right? You got Beal, Booker, and Durant. And who scores the
Could
best
be a clash.
out of
There could
all
be a
3 of them?
clash.
Durant does. So I think Durant needs to see a increase in touches.
He needs to
and,
play a full
shot
season of
attempts, I
basketball.
think.
That's what it is.
True.
I think he will play a full season because he's in a situation where he's not been hurt in the off season or something like that. There were a lot of times where I know with Brooklyn he missed that for that first year, that entire year. I think this team is going to give Denver, the Lakers, Everybody else in the West, a lot of problems. But it's going to be competitive, definitely.
Yeah, and the thing with Phoenix is when they gave Denver trouble, and they didn't. The problem is they couldn't win in Denver.
They couldn't string together games. Was the problem.
Yeah, the 2 games they won at home, Booker and Durant were just insane. They carried Phoenix in games 3 and 4, but when it came to going on the road, they just couldn't string together runs to take a lead on Denver. Denver just kept fighting back, and eventually won by about 10, 15 points each game. But if Phoenix can do that, but actually be more competitive this year, they might be able to beat Denver and maybe win the finals.
Speaking of Phoenix, transitioning on to the Diamondbacks and MLB playoffs going on. Some interesting games happening yesterday as of recording this. This is Wednesday, October 4th, so this is after the first day of playoffs of the wild card round. Diamondbacks take game 1, Twins take game 1, and Rangers handily take game 1. And as we are up filming this right now, it seems like Rangers are about to take out the Rays. So
wow,
Rangers will move on.
What a collapse, honestly, from Tampa.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of it's due to pitching staff injury, but man.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Back at the All-Star break, they were the favorites out of the American League.
Well, yeah.
I mean, 7-1.
Then I think around the beginning of August, Baltimore, that series that Baltimore played in Tampa, that basically was the end of Tampa's season, I think, because they lost the division lead on Baltimore and they never got it back, and Baltimore wound up getting the 1 seed, getting a bye for the wild card, and the Rays had to play a really tough Texas Rangers team, who even without Scherzer and DeGrom are still a really good team.
Is Eovaldi off the IR yet? Is he off the IR?
Pitched today. He did really good today.
Yeah, okay.
He's playing.
Oh, okay.
Him and Scherzer were playing, I think.
No,
Scherzer was up
here, isn't he?
I saw Scherzer up.
Scherzer was warming up.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I could have sworn I saw a report that he was out for the year.
That's what it seemed like, but
think about that pitching staff for the Rangers if they were fully healthy. DeGrom, Scherzer, Eovaldi, Montgomery, man.
Questionable Miami Marlins team in Philadelphia.
It's a team that went to the World Series last year.
Yeah, that's concerning if I'm Philly. Not because necessarily because the Marlins are sneaky. They're really good in 1-run games and close games. They could possibly pull off something, but Philly is questionable just because that's the number 1 home field advantage in MLB baseball right now, and pretty much in all sports. Is if you're playing in Philly, good luck, buddy.
I got to go off of the point about the Rays. Their season was done when McClanahan got hurt. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, to have a guy like that go down, and especially the way he went down and the injury and the time period and all of that, they really went from World Series contenders or favorites, whatever, to really just a mediocre playoff team. Mm-hmm. And even they probably should have got a game off of Texas because 2 straight home games you're going to get blown out.
Those are barely home games.
Those are barely home games.
Yeah,
how are you going to make
they set a record low attendance
and only sell out half the stadium? Playoff baseball. 19,000. Playoff baseball.
It's horrible.
And less than 20,000 fans in the seats. That's insane. It's pathetic.
Yeah. But it is a bad location, I will say that.
Well, they think building a bigger stadium is going to fix the problem. There's just not a sports market in Tampa for anything other than football.
I mean, not barely
getting butts in
the upper deck is not good.
They can move to Montreal and stay in the same division.
Yeah. Canada, bring back the Expos. Yeah. I have my Expos.
I want the Expos back.
Expos. I'm a big Expos fan.
They got to do something to get the interest back up in their team because they've been one of the best teams in recent years. And there's just nobody cares. People don't care.
Mm-hmm. And then argument about what I said about it's a bad location, and all that. But I mean, look at the Twins. It was about the same time the Rays game started.
Well,
they sold out their stadium basically.
Some of this also, if you look at it, the Rays, it's like the Rays, Marlins, and Rockies are like the 3 youngest teams in the league. So there's just no fan base at all for these teams. Like the Rays show up and there's nobody in Tampa is a Rays fan because they're already fans of other teams. And now
because there's no there by the time there's stars established in other by the time that the Rays stars came alive.
The Twins they won last night obviously, but before that they hadn't won in 18 straight playoff games, even if they still sell out, because the Twins are an old franchise with a lot of history and a very devoted fan base. And I guess you could call it like a fan pipeline, right? The Rays don't have that because everybody in Florida that doesn't live directly in Tampa likes the Marlins, and that's only if you like baseball.
The Marlins have an attendance problem as well, though.
They do as well, but I think that can be attributed to more that it's Miami versus the fact that the Rays
there's a lot of.
There's Marlins fans. It's just impossible to go to a game in Miami.
Yeah. The issue with this is that, and you could disagree with this, is that, and I'm just floating it out there, is that could it be the fact that, you're talking about having fan bases and stuff. A lot of people who live in Florida in general, and you could look this up, there's statistics to back this and all that. Stats to back it. And again, it probably, maybe won't make a huge difference, but a lot of people from the East Coast and Midwest move to Florida. So could that also play a role?
Well, yeah, you're transplanting. You're transplanting fans. So if a family that's like a Guardians fan moves to Florida and then they have kids in Florida or something like that, then they're going to be Guardians fans more likely than not. So now you've got a bunch of different fan bases. And they're all it's not a big deal, but they're competing for a market share that isn't there because all these people that like baseball like other teams.
But a lot of kids from the Midwest are down here in Phoenix, and the amount of Cubs and Sox hats I see down here, and the amount of times when I went to the Cubs Diamondbacks game a while ago, probably half the people there were Cubs fans, and in a home Diamondbacks environment.
There's also another aspect to this that's about marketability, and it's that the Rays haven't had a bona fide, super duper star since Evan Longoria.
I had one.
Which was how long ago?
It was a while ago. They haven't had him for a while.
Long time ago.
And it's been a while since he was in that upper echelon of the league. And there's no marketability because, if you like baseball and you like and you're interested in how teams are run, the Rays are one of the more exciting teams because they come up with these players that nobody's ever heard of, and then they turn them into good players.
Look at Randy Arozarena.
Randy Arozarena is a great example, actually. And
he came out of nowhere, came out of Mexico, which is a great baseball.
No. He came out of Cuba. He came out of Cuba.
Did he come out of
Cuba? But he didn't want to play for Cuba, so he
got granted Mexican citizenship.
He filed for Mexican residency.
And he said to the president, "I'll play in the World Baseball Classic for you if I get citizenship."
It's so weird.
And it was so weird, which is so awesome.
Either way, my point still stands. I mean, he came as not one of the biggest stars, and he just Rays developed him like they develop everybody, and he became good, and it's really unfortunate with what happened with Wander Franco because he was a bona fide star. I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah, for the girl.
Yeah.
I can't edit that out.
Unfortunate for the Rays.
No, I think the other issue.
Yeah, it's literally
the issue is
every single person involved.
Except Wander, who cares? I mean, you got to edit this whole thing. I'm not getting into it. The other issue is that
he's a big loss to the team, though. He was really good.
That's what I'm saying. It's a big loss to the Rays.
It's a big loss for the number 13 too. But players who wear number 13. I think the other thing is with this is that, when you look at the state of Florida as a whole, I'm just going to rattle off a couple of. So you got Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, and Miami.
If you live in Jacksonville, you're a Braves fan, probably.
Well, there's too much in Florida. Okay, like, do the Magic need to be a team? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's weird having a team in Orlando. I think it's weird having a team in Tampa. But I think when you're looking at the Tampa area, most people there are really centered around the Buccaneers, just because they've been around for a little bit. The Buccaneers have been around for a while. Of course, you go down south, the Dolphins, with all that history there, they're one of the more premier NFL franchises. But I think you got to give. I think the Rays need a little bit of time, and the stadium doesn't help. All that stuff doesn't help.
No.
But I think there's too much. I think.
In summary, your point is that it's very difficult for the Rays to get new fans because the way they run their team is not marketable. If they were a storied franchise, like if the Yankees ran their team like the Rays, that would be great because they have the fan base, and then now they're running an efficient, like, established team that's good every year. But the problem is home-growing your own talent that aren't. Like, Yandy Diaz was one of the best players in the league this year. He's not super flashy. He's not super marketable. They don't do a lot of marketing in Tampa. Like, I don't think I saw, other than that one play where Wander Franco flipped the ball up in his hand and threw it to first base, I didn't see a single Rays clip the entire year. And this is a team that made the World Series 2 years ago.
Yeah. Everybody's making fun of that Wander Franco clip. But
honestly, that could not have been better for them because... Like, think of the attention that brought the franchise. Like, that's huge. He was gonna be the guy that would give them fans, and now they don't have that anymore. Randy Rosarena would be that guy if he was better, but he's just not good enough.
I think he has a chance to keep getting better, but it'll take a few years for him to get to that.
By the time he's that good, he'll just leave in free agency because they're not gonna want to pay him.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you notice how no superstar free agents want to go to Tampa
because they don't pay anybody.
Nobody does.
The biggest signing they've made in like the past 10 years was like a 45-year-old Nelson Cruz, and it was like $9 million. So that's kind of where they're at.
Another issue with this is that, and people can disagree, but nobody really cares about the Rays. Like, you know what I mean? There's teams that you watch, and this is true for any sport, any professional league here in the U.S. There are some teams that, they could be really good, they could be really bad, but people just don't give a shit about them. Like, you look at the NFL and stuff, there are some teams that'll come on maybe the Chargers or somebody, or just even the Buccaneers, I think. Nobody, and Jacksonville, maybe, nobody gives a about these teams. They're boring. You just have that overall feeling of just being a boring team.
There's just some cities, and I feel like that happens with Florida teams a lot. I think
there's a general lack of passion for Florida sports.
Yeah.
Other than the Miami Heat, I think there's a general lack of passion in terms of fans.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are
I think with the Dolphins used to. I think Miami. No one used to care about the Dolphins. Post Marino days,
the fan base really fell off. Because they were terrible.
But it's been back up now. Because of the recent success, and they're filling the stadiums now. They never used to fill their stadiums.
Y'all had almost zero success. You haven't won anything.
Well,
it's the promise. It's the promise of success.
Right, and it's the players they've got. They've got talented players, Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, whatever. But I think the only teams in Florida people care about are the Heat and the Dolphins. That's it.
Yep, and that's the two long-standing Miami franchises.
Right.
Yeah, and then if you go into college, the Gators are a huge thing down there.
The Canes, oh my gosh, college football is like a religion. Down there. Which is interesting because
I think Florida's bigger than Miami.
Is a little more watered down.
Right, and you look at the SEC.
I think that makes
entire South.
The least watered down state in terms of how crazy these people are. No offense to my roommate. I I mean, it makes sense. The more tuned up, crazy version of the sport is more popular there. And
Yeah.
if I lived in Florida, I'd be a fan of. I think I would go more towards the Canes or the Gators or Florida State or any of those
Oh,
teams
yeah, the
because
Seminoles.
there's just more there.
Yeah.
There's just more
Florida
there.
State's
There's
had more
Well,
success.
it's because
fun to
college
be had.
football, honestly, if you're a casual fan of football, college football is probably what you want to watch. Like,
It's fun,
it's
right?
a faster,
It's fun.
more lively version of the game. And it's weird because there's not a whole lot of rule differences from the NFL to college that like make a difference in the pace of the play. It's just the
Defenses are
NFL.
worse.
Defenses are not as good. Or it's not even that they're bad. It's just defenses in the NFL are so good at stopping plays that it's just a much more cerebral game in the NFL.
If you're a big fan of defensive football,
Yeah.
then that's the only reason why I'd be like,
Well,
yeah,
if you're a big
I'd
fan of
definitely
defensive
watch.
football, you're gonna go watch Army football because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
classic right there. I saw Navy throw the football down the field this year, which is insane to me. I've never seen that in my life.
Speaking of football, move on to
Clean
move on to
transition.
our weekly NFL
Yep,
stupidity.
that's a good word for it. Stupid.
Bengals.
Oh my god.
Ouch.
Go with the Bengals, baby.
Route.
Okay,
Drew, how
me-
you feeling?
let me just get my thought out here, right? The play calling, not great. However, we saw against the Rams that it's good enough right now. It can surely be better, but it's good enough right now. The problem is that Joe Burrow cannot set his feet to throw. And defenses, Joe Burrow is a sneakily mobile quarterback. Like, people think of him as the pocket passer, but he can get out and move when he needs to.
Yeah.
And
I can't right
there was
now.
this one screenshot that I saw against the Rams. It was a four-man rush. The A-gap was wide open. Any other quarterback in the league, including like Kirk Cousins, runs this football. Because the A-gap is wide open. There's no one at backer. There's no spy. And he can't run the ball because he can't plant his feet and accelerate because his calf is hurt. And now, here's the problem. You're 1-3. He sits out 2 weeks to get healthy. You're 1-5. You're done in the AFC right now. It's over.
Yeah.
Unless you can somehow crawl back and win the division, which is unlikely, you're done. Because 6 losses is barely enough for the 7th wild card spot.
Yeah, and I just saw...
My opinion here is if you don't win this next game, if you're the Bengals, you sit Joe Burrow for the rest of the season and just
Well,
have
rest of the season, no. We're paying
Okay.
him $50 million a year. So no,
Do you
not
want
the
him
rest of the
next
season.
year?
Yeah, but a strained calf does not take the entire season to heal. Are you insane?
Well, I'm not saying rest of the season. That's
what you said verbatim. Verbatim.
Yes, I know. It was an exaggeration.
But
it was more of
that's the problem.
He's
The offense
fully
can't.
back.
There's no run blocking. The offense can't move the football. So here's
Exactly.
the defense
So-
is elite this year. The defense has been elite. The problem is when you send the defense out 5 times in a quarter against Derrick Henry, things are going to go very poorly for you. You can contain him for a certain amount of time, but once your defensive ends start to get tired, once your linebackers start to get tired, it's over. So then you end up with the Titans scoring 3 times in a row, and now it's 21-3. And the
And
game's
Ryan
over.
Tannehill starts cooking.
And now Joe
which is
Burrow's still
depressing.
out. We're down 3 or 4 scores in the 4th quarter, and Joe Burrow's still out there playing on a bum calf. So either
and I saw something.
either this is the most incompetent medical staff in the league, letting him run out there, or Joe Burrow does not listen to anybody. He wants to go play.
And speaking of Burrow, I saw a notification earlier from CBS Sports. It says Burrow views Cardinals game as must-win and feels better than he's felt
Every game is must-win at this
game of
point.
the season. Exactly.
Every game is. We cannot finish less than 12-5 and
If
win
you,
this
if you lose to
division.
the Cardinals, it's Joe Burrow. I hate to break it
Every
to you.
game
If you
is
lose to the
must win.
Cardinals, it's
We
Joe
cannot
Burrow.
lose another game. And here's the problem: we've got the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Niners. Still, this is not good. This is not good.
Yeah, but he did say he does feel the best right now. He does.
Oh,
Yeah,
right, I'm
okay,
sure he
I wanna
feels the
go off
best.
of that.
He
I
felt
wanna
the
go
best
off of
last
that.
week,
Hold on.
and we scored 3 points.
Hold on, I want to go off of that because I think that's total bullshit. And let me explain to you why. Not that what you said, what Burrow thinks. Oh, I'm feeling great. Andrew Hawkins said he was feeling great. And the 2012 AFC wildcard game, 2 catches for 16 yards, and they got blown out. So I don't buy any time an athlete
especially
says,
a guy like Joe Burrow, who's that kind of like ultimate competitor. He's not gonna go out and say, "Yeah, I feel terrible." Yeah. It's just not what he's gonna do. But yeah, I mean,
but they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
It is not good. We need to be praying for the 7th seed, and then maybe we can make something happen in the playoffs. But
moving on to me and Jack's Chicago Bears. That was a really fun game to watch. I'm not gonna lie. When Justin Fields threw that pick at the end of the game, I audibly started laughing. So I think that was hilarious.
It's so funny that my team has scored like 25 points the whole year, and we're not the worst. I don't have the worst team here.
He just throws a pick to the throws to the wrong shoulder of Cole Kmet, which is like the most basic communication like thing that you can like get, where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna turn to my left shoulder probably, or the most basic vision
Justin
thing.
Fields cannot throw an in route to save his life.
I don't get it.
Noticeably, a lot of the bad throws he has come off these backside ends, and it's just so bad.
And Fields didn't look that bad. Fields actually looked pretty good this week. This was probably his best game.
First half was
since his rookie year.
And this is his best game.
No, it's his best game ever
of his career.
300 passing yards.
And they still lost, and he still threw the game away. But he played well in the first half. At second half, I thought the fumble was just terrible.
You got to hold on to the ball.
At that point, you need
to take the sack. You can't be looking to throw in that scenario.
Yeah.
And then the interception, you could bitch all you want about how they could have, the defense could have done better. The 4th and 1 play call, which was terrible. I don't know why you do that. But Fields still had a chance to tie or win the game, and he threw an interception. So, there you go. Get rid of him.
Once again, giving excuses.
Not even tie. Not even tie. They were not down. Oh, wait, yeah, they were.
They were.
Was it after the field goal?
We were down by.
I'm conflating the fumble and the interception because they were both were both equally egregious.
The fumble tied the game. The Bears were driving. They looked like they were going to score. And Matt Eberflus's dumbass decides to call a run on 4th and 1 when Denver's probably reading that
and
really well.
Not even a halfback dive. He decides to run a halfback draw straight up the middle on a defense that's been holding our run game up the middle pretty well for the second half. That's one of the stupidest play goals. If you're gonna run a not a pass play on a 4th and 1 like that, first of all, you should be kicking that field goal. That I think we can all agree on that. That's a kick. You kick that field goal.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're first of all, you're gonna call run play. Run something creative on that 4th and 1 because you're running back.
It doesn't have to be creative.
Physical enough.
Just put in a fullback and run it up the middle.
Exactly. I don't know, but the thing is, I don't know why if we're gonna run a 4th and 1. I don't know why you're putting in our least physical and our shifty back.
Why is Rocho not in there?
Exactly.
That's I don't know. They don't use him at all, and it pisses me off. He's really good. And they don't use him at all. They barely use him.
Our best running back. He should be our number 1, but they're stuck on
exactly. I like Khalil Herbert, but
David Montgomery for the same reason that they're stuck on this. Khalil Herbert is the next coming of Walter Payton grind, and let's give Khalil Herbert 450 carries a game or whatever, and have him run it up the middle every time, because that worked with David Montgomery because he was a strong physical back, and Khalil Herbert's not, but that'll still work, right? Because our offensive line surely is good.
Speaking of David Montgomery, by the way, 3 touchdowns.
What a pop-off.
What a game. One day off the IR, and he scores 3 touchdowns. Jameer Gibbs' fantasy owners are in shambles.
They're underusing him.
David Montgomery, top 5 running back in the league.
Even though I don't know why anybody expected anything different from them with Jameer Gibbs, because that's exactly how they used DeAndre Swift, and it's the same exact thing.
That was unexpected. They did say they were going to use him in unexpected ways. And unexpected ways is including not using him.
I mean, they do need to use him more, though, because...
But honestly, though, they don't, because David Montgomery is so good.
Yeah, but, I mean,
I'm really
there's certain situations where you need Jameer Gibbs in there, but there's a situation where Gibbs would be better than Montgomery, but
yeah. But here's the thing, though. When J-Mo gets back, and he can open up the top of the field, man, that offense is going to be something.
He's back this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you've got St. Brown, who's a great route runner. He's great underneath. J-Mo opens up the top. He can get the safeties out. And then probably Marvin Jones or Josh Reynolds kind of swapping in and out. They're both very good in their own right. Yeah. Sam Laporta looks like a genuine guy.
Yeah.
He looks really good. He's great at getting open. And that offensive line, man, is so good. They have maybe the best run-blocking offensive line in the league.
Mm-hmm. Penny still turned out like how we thought he would.
Their defense has been solid.
And Brian Branch has been pretty good for a rookie.
Brian Branch is a defensive rookie.
Brian Branch had a great game.
I've watched all these Lions games. He has looked solid.
His game against the Falcons, man, came out, laid out Bijan Robinson to start. He didn't even care if he got a flag. He was just setting the tone.
One as an Alabama defensive back, never been good in the NFL.
That's true.
Got to be Corey McKinstry.
They have a good track record.
I do have to mention. I do have to say that, the Bears, the Bengals, all your guys' teams, they had pretty bad weeks.
Your team had a bad week too.
But
oh my God!
Let me get there. I think we take number one because those fuckers over there. We got our asses handed to us, and I'm not going to go into detail about how, there was talk before the game and whatever, the best offense in the league. I don't give a shit about that. But we got absolutely destroyed. I mean, and before, anybody gets smart and saying, oh, Tua got exposed, this offense got exposed. No, we didn't. We were playing in Buffalo. You knew that Buffalo was going to throw the kitchen sink at the Dolphins because they heard all the talk about Miami being the best team in the league, the best offense, best team in the division. And everybody was kind of writing Buffalo off. But I think Tua still had a great game. The receivers weren't really used that much.
He didn't. No, he didn't. Stop
it. No. He threw for 282 yards and a touchdown. I don't want to hear anything else.
That's fine. That's an okay game. That's an okay game.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
I don't think good.
I don't think the Bears were good either. I don't think the Bears would sniff good this year. I think the Dolphins have sniffed the Super Bowl this year. And I think, while people were saying Miami was, Buffalo beat them. So I think they're the best team in the AFC. I think the Dolphins are right behind them. But I got to talk about this offensive line because this line is terrible for them.
The Chiefs have the Taylor Swift buff, which now means they're the best team in the league by far because no matter what,
it's interesting. They have the ref buff and the Taylor Swift buff, and they actually
I think
they exponentially stack.
No, so I got to talk about the offensive line though with Miami because they completely failed Tua. I mean, this guy had about a second to throw the ball before the defense was on top of his ass. And they got to fix their issue at center. I don't know what the hell it is with Miami's center this year. Every fucking game, the snap is at Tua's ankles, and then there's 4 300-pound guys on his ass. Cut that out. But come on, are you fucking kidding me? How many times is a snap gonna go at his fucking feet? What are we doing? When you have a team like that, we were 3-0 going into Sunday. That's kicked our fucking ass for the entire 4 years Tua's been on the Dolphins. They've beaten us they've owned us. This team owns us. Like Green Bay owns Chicago, right? The Bills owns Miami. Listen, when the snap is at your quarterback's feet, there's not much you can ask him to do. He's scrambling to pick the ball up. He's tripping over himself because he's got to reach down 40 feet in front of him to get the ball. The snapping, the center play, the offensive line has been their biggest issue. The defense has been terrible too, but I think the issue for Miami is their offensive line because that is going to screw them over if they get to the postseason, if they're in these big games. They play Kansas City, they play Dallas, they play Baltimore. Fix the offensive line because there's been enough bad snaps. There's a bad snap every game for this team.
Think about your main contenders in the AFC this year. The Chiefs have a really good pass rush this year. The Bills have a really good pass rush this year.
Oh, yeah.
And I know the Bengals are not in a good form right now, but if they do get going
They do
end up meeting Miami somewhere in the playoffs, that Bengals pass rush has looked elite this year. That Rams game, Trey Hendrickson had an arm around his neck almost every play, and he was still getting to Stafford. They stacked Stafford 6 times, or maybe it was 9 times, I don't remember. But they were there every play. And these top teams have elite pass rushes. The Browns have an elite pass rush. The Ravens have an elite pass rush.
Talking about pass rush, Khalil Mack had 6 sacks in one game.
He was
and nobody
oh my
talked about
gosh,
that.
6 sacks. He was
That's wild,
off the
by the
wall.
way.
Off the wall.
That's ridiculous. And he was being held, too.
The Raiders just got mixed, dude. They
got absolutely.
They did not know what to do.
Yeah.
Then
that was a much
I don't know
needed
where
win
they
for
got
them.
the recipe, but the goddamn Chargers got a recipe for Raiders cake and freaking mixed them all over the place. There's no consistency whatsoever in any sort of I guess the Raiders were consistently ass, so if that counts. But other than that, the only consistent thing was Khalil Mack getting to the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, and the blitzing, not even just Khalil.
Oh,
Kenneth Murray
ridiculous.
was there he was in the backfield every time he tried. It was bad. And they had a rookie quarterback playing. Not that Jimmy G's anything particularly special, but they're in shambles right now.
Yeah, and Jeff, going back to your point on the Dolphins, if they do make the Super Bowl, what's going to happen if they meet San Francisco?
Oh, man. That's the best pass rush in the league.
Well, I think if Miami makes the Super Bowl, the offensive line, I think, would have been fixed.
That's fair.
I'm serious.
That's not fair to assume. That is not fair to assume because there was a team 2 years ago in the Bengals that went with Isaiah Prince and Hakeem Adeniji at their right side guard and tackle, and they made the Super Bowl. So
yeah, I got news for you. I think this offensive line is worse because
it's not. I can guarantee you
it's not.
I can personally guarantee you.
It's not worse.
I can personally guarantee you that your offensive line is not worse than Jonah Williams, Hakeem Adeniji, Isaiah Prince, Billy Price, and Michael Jordan maybe might have been playing guard at that point.
Michael Jordan, he plays basketball.
There was a Michael
the
Jordan
guy on the Bulls?
on the Bengals last year.
Yeah, what? The guy who had the flu game?
That entire offensive line is cut from the team. Or no, it was Bobby Hart. I do not like him. And that's the worst offensive line in the league that year. And they made the Super Bowl.
Bobby Anvil.
But this isn't. It's an issue for Miami, and it's an issue enough to tank their season.
It's more of an issue for Miami because Tua is not as physical as some of these other guys.
Well, and it's about protecting your quarterback, right?
Yeah.
The center play has been abysmal. There's been so many snaps at his ankles, and I don't know, when you snap the ball, if it's at the feet, that play is busted because the defensive line, I've already said, they're on top of you. So you have no time. And granted, you've got to give credit to Buffalo's defense. They threw the kitchen sink at us. And, they were supposed to. They played the game to send a message to Miami. And I will say one thing, and this would be the last thing on the Dolphins, is that I feel bad for the New York Giants on Sunday because can you imagine what Miami's going to do to them? They're going to take out all their frustration on the Giants. It might be uglier than the Denver game.
This Giants team is
that might be the worst team in the league.
Disgustingly
it might be worse
bad.
than the Bears.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing. This is the same thing you were just talking about. If you give your quarterback that much money, you have to have an offensive line. And Daniel Jones gets the ball, and he's got 4 pass rushers on him instantly. They are a revolving door.
This is the one exception where I'm like, this is not Daniel Jones. There's been some questionable decision on Daniel Jones' part. He hasn't played great.
Well, you make questionable decisions when you've got a 300-pound defensive tackle running full speed at you.
In the pocket.
Right.
I'm sure I'd make some questionable throws if Eric Armstead came through the line untouched, running straight at me.
Absolutely.
And Devon Witherspoon's 97-yard pick six basically
man.
set the tone.
That was a bad pick though. That was Daniel Jones' fault.
That was that's one of the decisions.
I'm just saying that kind of like set the tone for the game. Like,
yeah,
the Giants. Just
I think it ended the game.
No, that one ended the game. They were up 14-3 at that point, I think.
I think my issue with the Giants is that they have a bad offensive line, but Daniel Jones has nobody to throw the ball.
The problem is also last year, the Giants' O-line last year was actually kind of decent, so I don't know what changed.
Yeah, they were.
I don't know what changed.
The receivers are terrible, though. He's got nobody.
Darren Waller is literally useless. I don't know what he does on the football field.
Yeah, that's a game not to watch on Sunday. If you want to watch any good NFL games, do not watch the Giants-Dolphins game. The game's going to be
a slaughter.
To avoid it, speaking of avoiding bad football games, I know most of you probably weren't going to watch Thursday Night Football anyway because they consistently blow, but this one's going to blow more than usual because it's Bears-Commanders, which is arguably the worst matchup I've ever heard of.
They have that
from last year. Yeah. Who thought that was a good idea?
Washington's not that bad.
Who saw the pile of crap that they threw out on the field last year and said, "Let's do it again"?
Right.
Like,
well, and I'll add to that because they were playing the NFC East teams last year. They're not even playing the NFC East teams last year. Somebody saw the 12-7 Thursday night game, and not only did they say put the Bears and Commanders as a matchup, put it on Thursday night again. What are we doing, NFL? This is terrible. Nobody's going to watch.
I don't understand because Thursday Night Football, they push it so hard. It could be a huge brand asset for them, or it is. It's NFL football, but it could be huge, and you could have these barn burning.
They just put shitty games on.
You could have these barn burning games. Like if you put like a Chiefs Niners game on Thursday Night Football, people would watch.
Beautiful.
That would have insane numbers. Instead, we get to watch Justin Fields duke it out with Sam Howell, and that's where we're at right now.
So the issue with the Thursday night is that it's simple. It's because it's not on television. The ratings compared to when CBS, Fox, and NBC carried Thursday Night Football way better than Amazon Prime. So and it's not like it's going to go away because they just got it, but that's an issue in of itself. Is that come on, it's got to be on TV. What are we doing putting it on streaming services?
Yeah,
like 80-year-old people are not going to have.
The problem is it's such a good broadcasting duo too. Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit do a great job.
Right,
they're an entertaining duo, and it's just they're just restricting it from people.
It should be on national TV. Same London games.
Prime time football games should be on national TV.
Sure, most of the American population who watches football probably has Prime. But that doesn't. It's not a good excuse to put it on there. It's not profitable. It's a stupid idea.
Well, no, it is profitable. It is profitable because Amazon's giving them an insane amount of money for it.
Oh yeah,
nobody's watching.
Yeah, and
it's profitable. It's profitable for the NFL. It is not profitable for Amazon because nobody's watching.
Yes.
Yeah. What Jeff said about the London games, those are on ESPN Plus. I mean, I guess most people probably have.
That one's weird.
That's one that most people don't have. Like,
yeah, not a lot of people have that.
The only reason I have ESPN Plus is because I have the Disney Plus bundle, and I'm a journalist.
That's the same with me.
If I'm not majoring in journalism, I don't have ESPN Plus because I'm not interested in watching these ragtag groups of college kiddos get out. I'm not interested in watching Eastern Illinois play Bowling Green, and I'm not interesed in that.
Put some respect on Bowling Green.
Fanboy.
Beat Georgia Tech.
Put some respect on Eastern Illinois. That is home of Sean Payne, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tony Romo, Jim Tremmel.
I think Is
that your dad?
The problem.
Yeah, that is my father.
Problem with the international game is that they'll split it between ESPN Plus and NFL Network, and I'm going to go as far and say
nobody in this
NFL Network isn't national television.
It's barely NFL. It's barely national.
Who has? Do you guys have NFL Network? Because I don't.
Most people have it. Most people have it
get it in your basic cable package. But
yeah. If you have cable, it'll come with that. But whatever, because they used to be on TV. They used to be on CBS. So why not just keep that? Like, I don't get it. I think it might be a way to promote their new stupid-ass streaming service. And I think cable still reigns supreme over streaming service for television in general. But, I mean, if you want people to watch, put it on national TV. Don't put it on ESPN Plus or Amazon, because you're not going to get as many people to watch it. And it's as simple as this, is that, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say you're 40, 50s, and maybe early 60s or whatever, that kind of age group. You're going to come home at like 7, you're going to get home at like 6:30, you eat breakfast, and then 7 o'clock rolls around on a Thursday night. You don't want to have to go and look for Amazon Prime to put the game on.
Oh, it's
you
really
just want to turn the TV on and
really
scroll to the channel.
There's a lot of lagging involved too.
It is, and they're always usually delayed than like other people's streams and stuff. But if it was just to be on TV, just literally go through the guide and put the channel on, and then you got it. It's all this extra.
It's basically streaming. Watching streamies, which, if for people who don't know what streamies, it's an illegal streaming service that people watch NFL games on. It's that level of quality of stream sometimes, which is terrible, because streamies is like, I wouldn't know, of course, but it's about, I think, like 5 or 6 minutes behind. I have no knowledge. This is just complete hearsay, but I have no knowledge. But from what I've heard, and from what I know of Amazon Prime, it's 5 or 6 minutes behind other people's streams, and it's terrible. I mean, get your streams fixed. If you're gonna do it right. If you're gonna put out a crappy product, put out the crappy product in a good way. Because although the game might be crappy, I still might watch.
Well, the problem is it's not a crappy
product
because it's Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, and they're very good.
You're scrolling through at 7 o'clock. Oh, Thursday Night Football.
The Hall of Fame game on August 12th gets similar numbers of viewers to some NBA playoff games. It's the most dominant product on the television market.
Oh, I'm just saying if you're going to put a crappy NFL on-field performance that Thursday Night Footballs have consistently put out over the last few years, that's going to be put out. At least make the streams run nice. I'm still going to watch it because I watch NFL football because I'm a slave to the market. But I mean, it's not a good process. Just put it, like Jeff said, put it on national TV. That'll help a lot. Any predictions for Commanders Bears other than crap?
Actually, I feel like the Commanders are probably going to dice them up, because the Commanders are kind of halfway decent versus totally garbage.
Yeah, if Sam Howell can manage to not throw 12 picks, they should be fine, because the Bears, I don't think they'll be able to do anything to that.
Depends on what Bears team shows up, though. Like, if it's the Bears team,
there's one Bears team and it's bad.
If the Bears team. There is one Bears team, because the Broncos have proven that they are a bad team. And if you go up 28-7 and you lose this football game in the fourth quarter, you are the worst team in the league. This team. Honestly, I agree with what Jeff said a couple episodes ago. This team right now is worse than last year's Bears team.
So do I.
By a mile. I
agree with that.
But last year's Bears team
was not
a lock. They should not have had the first pick. And they got lucky to get that, and then they squandered it. They traded for DJ Moore, who was actually good on Sunday, but you traded for a mid-tier wide receiver 1 and some other picks. Now this year it's looking like they're going to get the 1 and the 2, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But
and Caleb Williams doesn't want to play for us, so
too bad.
I guess Drake May it is.
First overall pick gets like $30 million guaranteed, so I think he'll play.
You could probably make the same amount if he goes back to USC.
He's not going to pull an Eli. He does not have the same kind of pull that Eli does.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
No, Eli didn't pull anything. The Mannings pulled something. The greatest football dynasty ever pulled something.
Fair.
And the GOAT.
The greatest football dynasty ever until Tom Brady's son somehow shows up in the league and throws for 100,000 yards.
And starts kissing people. Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to the Bears, they will most likely lose. If they do,
really,
Eddie Rufus better be gone Friday morning. If he's not gone Friday morning,
they've never done that. They've never
That's
done that. Hold
brutal.
on.
Firing someone
They've
night
never done
of.
that. So the Bears have never fired a head coach in season, no matter how bad they've done.
That's
It's always
fine.
been in the
That's
off
fine.
season.
I think I don't
No,
have.
I have heard rumors though. I've heard a lot of stuff that Eberflus will be fired.
Yeah, but they've never done
if
it.
they
though.
lose.
So
I
that
also
would be
heard rumors that Justin Fields could
uncharacteristic.
possibly be a good quarterback.
I heard
Before
rumors that the
like,
Bears might actually win games this year. So
exactly.
we're all kind
before
of
that,
in the
Jack.
dark. We're all kind of in the
I
dark.
guess we'll
here.
see. But I truly think Ryan Poles will make the right decision. He's sick of
Stone cold
He's sick
Ryan
of
The
it.
Poles.
fact,
It's not
the fact that
Matt
you think
Eberflus.
Ryan Poles has the authority to up and fire a head coach mid-season baffles me. He does not have the authority to do that.
What's stupid though is Eberflus should not have
As
even
a
been
Bears
fired
fan, you should know.
and hired.
Jack,
Come on, Morgan.
look at me. Look at me. Jack, look at me. As a Bears fan, you should know this, that the GM doesn't control shit in Chicago. It is the McCaskies and their little posse. They control everything.
Gang.
Everything goes through them. Yeah, their little gang. It goes through the McCaskies, goes through 900-year-old Virginia. No offense, I'm sure she's a nice lady, but she sucks at running a football team and owning a football team. George, thank God he's gone. But I mean, you should know as a Bears fan, the general manager in a Bears organization, as long as the McCaskies are in charge, is a figurehead who does nothing except for scout. He's basically an advanced scouter.
And what sucks is how the Bears did their rebuild backwards. They hired offensive coordinator, then the coach, then the GM, then the president, when it should be the complete opposite. So Ryan Poles didn't get to choose who he wanted as his coach and offensive coordinator. Kevin Warren didn't get to choose who he wanted as his general manager. It's not. I mean that just can't happen. Rebuild should not go backwards like that. It's stupid. I mean, Poles was.
It's also weird.
Poles was really good in Kansas City.
Their entire rebuild process kind of hinged around that defense from 2018, and
that fell apart.
They rebuilt, got good, fell apart again, and kind of didn't rebuild. They're still kind of trying to ride that wave, even though the roster's almost entirely it's almost entirely different roster.
I think the only person on that team is Eddie Jackson.
Yeah.
So and he's not even that good anymore. No offense, Eddie, I love him. He's not been great. He's been okay. He's been
old.
solid. Okay.
He's
just aging like a human being. That's all that's happening. He's just aging, not like Tom Brady.
You can tell he really wants. He's trying his hardest out there, but he gets hurt too much though.
Well, I hope all of them are trying their hardest out there.
Yeah, I would hope that Justin Fields is not trying to the bed, and that he's just actually.
I'm just saying because Eddie Jackson really loves the game. He really wants. He wants to win. He wants to be good, but he just injures himself too much by doing that. He plays way too hard sometimes, and kind of gets him injured.
I kind of get what you're saying.
Hold on.
I know
I
what
get
you're
what you're saying. I
saying,
get
but
what you're saying.
So giving effort is a bad thing?
No, he's giving.
No, there's a difference.
Going
There's a
in on
difference.
plays.
There's a difference.
How is there a difference? Being injured is a matter of fate.
No, there's a
going
difference.
in on plays that he shouldn't go on. Putting him in.
Oh, tell me what that is.
Going in on let's say no, I don't have any concrete examples. I don't care about the Bears. Let's say the linebacker wraps a tackle. This is a made tackle, and Eddie Jackson comes flying in and hurts himself on the play. Then that's dumb. That's stupid.
No, that's not a playing hard issue. That's being a fucking idiot issue. Because a lot of and I agree because a lot of players do that. They're dumb, so they go in for useless tackles. And I think you have to balance that of playing hard and not being dumb. So I mean,
You're saying he gives too much effort to the point where he gets hurt.
Yeah, but I don't think you can give too much effort. I think there's a difference between giving effort and, like I said, being dumb and not knowing when to make a play and not.
Yeah,
because I don't think there's nothing wrong with giving too much effort. And if anything, you should be giving all your effort every
football,
game.
You should be.
But you should know when to make a play and when not to make a play. And I think that's what you guys are saying, because a lot of the time players will get hurt for just doing too much.
Exactly. That he's doing too much.
And going off of Drew's example, DJ Reed I think DJ Reed did exactly that, but he missed Mahomes.
Well, actually,
Completely.
here's the thing, right? The Bears, the linebacker will never wrap a tackle by himself, so.
Yeah. I mean,
Paying him as much as Roquan Smith.
You need at least both your insides and
supposed to be
maybe your will.
That should be Roquan Smith in that front seven, and it's Tremaine Edmonds.
I don't know why we got rid of him. I don't understand that.
Traded him for a bag of peanuts and then signed a different linebacker for the same amount of money.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody can see what you're doing, Morgan.
Stupid.
Okay.
Stupid. That's what it is.
I mean, getting rid of
Thursday night's going to be rough
Mack,
for them.
getting rid of him
24-7 team Washington.
Getting rid of Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith was just stupid. I mean, because you paid, what, Yannick Ngakoue maybe the same amount of money you paid Khalil Mack?
That was
overpaid.
No. He did not get nearly as much money as Khalil Mack. He got a huge deal.
Yeah, that's fair, but still.
And also the Khalil Mack deal at the time did make sense.
Yeah, he was underperforming.
He was kind of on the way out, underperforming, and you got a decent haul from the Chargers. So.
He didn't underperform Sunday, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had a vintage game.
He's been solid with the Chargers.
Well, his first couple years with the Chargers were kind of rough, honestly.
Well, and
I feel like
you know who
there's
else
not
has
a
been
lot of
solid?
great games this week, unfortunately. I think there's a few to look out for. I think the London game will be fun. Pick up early, watch that if you want to. I think that'll be a fun game to watch. I think those are always. I think those are always fun games. London atmosphere is always nice. I think that's always.
Niners Cowboys Sunday night could be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Niners Cowboys is gonna be a barn burner, dude.
Yeah, it could be.
The
Cowboys crap.
That's probably the two best defenses in the league, if we're being honest.
Yeah, who's Monday night?
I don't know.
Bad game, probably.
I don't
Who
care.
cares? It probably sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably does.
Yeah, some of these matchups are super unappealing, but
I'm looking at the entire schedule just to see if there's anything.
By the way, Richardson and Stroud have been really good, and the Bears could have had him, and they didn't get him.
Oh yeah, Stroud looks really, really good. I think Stroud is probably rookie of the year.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Rams Eagles could be nice. Keep look. It's God.
Terrible.
Packers Raiders.
Ew.
Oh.
That fun with that. Have fun with that, boys.
Who throws this on the schedule? It says, Packers Raiders in a primetime game.
Put it on
The only
Monday.
reason that's a primetime game is because of Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
You know what's depressing? Texans Falcons is arguably the second best
That
game
might
this
be
week.
one of the best matchups of the week.
I don't
If
think
you
so.
told
Atlanta's
me
terrible.
that Texans
No.
Falcons would be
Atlanta is good. Atlanta might win their division.
What?
Yeah,
Desmond Ritter might be the worst quarterback in
Okay,
the league.
look, Desmond Ritter had a rough game, okay? But the Atlanta...
No, he's had a
say
rough
that.
season.
could say that.
Okay,
He's scared to throw the
he's had a
ball.
couple rough games, but...
How many games have there been?
Okay, here's the thing, right? Their offense is built around running the football and stretching out the field, compacting the field, and then Desmond Ritter doesn't have to throw the ball that much. So,
Yeah, but he sucks even when he tries.
okay.
You just dump it off to Bijan and he just avoids 27 players.
all he has to do is give it to Bijan, really.
Dude,
Yeah, but you can't
Minnesota's
win
going to
like
sweep
that.
Toronto, by the way.
You can win the NFC South like
Or
that.
what's the score?
I
It's a 2-0
don't know. I take a look at
it's
Tampa.
2-0. I highly doubt bottom 5.
I mean, honestly, it's if we're being real, it's probably Tampa, New Orleans, Atlanta, Carolina. Carolina might be the worst team.
Yeah,
Second worst team in the league, honestly. They do not look good.
I mean,
They need Andy Dalton. Start Andy Dalton right now.
start the red rifle.
I want the red rifle.
I mean, Bryce Young got put in a
Bryce
horrible
Young
situation.
is like 5'2", so I'll give him.
Every single first overall pick quarterback since the beginning of time has been put in a horrible situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, except Bryce Young's 5'2", and that hurts him.
Yeah. I mean, like I heard on Panthers Vikings game. The color commentator said about, because you know how in Alabama he'd always like evade sacks and run for first downs and stuff like that, or like do insane stuff like that.
I avoid watching Alabama football games. I'm sorry.
But either way, like he said in the NFL, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to evade sacks like that and throw 50 yards downfield to an open man. Because that's just not going to happen. They're going to wrap you up like immediately. It's an NFL defensive end. Like they're not gonna miss that tackle more often than not.
Yeah. And that's honestly, there's been like a little bit of like a scoring decrease. If you haven't noticed, like, I mean, yeah, there's been some blowout games, but like overall the games are like scoring lower. Like your average game
except for that one game.
Your average game is probably under like 50 points total, which is interesting because defenses have gotten so good.
Everybody hammer the under.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is that yardage is way up, but scoring is lower, which doesn't really make sense logically when you think about it.
Red zone defense.
Yeah, bend don't break football, baby. That's the best kind right there. We're going to give up 350 yards of offense and only let up 14 points. That Jets-Chiefs game, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Now, okay, I do not want to talk about Taylor Swift being at the game. I don't care about that.
Oh, shut up.
I
don't care.
Want to talk about Zach Wilson and how he played an actually good football game.
Did play an actually good football game and got screwed over, and that game got rough ball.
That was not holding, by the way. Like,
oh, it wasn't.
It really wasn't. And Zach Wilson, honestly, there were some sketchy throws from Zach Wilson that Lazard came back and got, but he threw some really good passes. That touchdown to Lazard was a dot. That was a laser beam.
Okay.
Did you guys hear Rodney Harrison after the game?
Oh, yeah, that was disgusting.
It was ridiculous. He should have been fired.
They should fire him on the spot. They should have had someone take like one of those big hooks and drag him off the camera.
It's just two guys in a suit. You're done. Enough of you.
Yeah.
That was like, it was so bad. Like
he was
being on camera. Like that's not the way to be on.
For those who don't know, he tried to bait Chris Jones into dissing Zach Wilson after Zach Wilson just was burning them the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, and not even that. He straight up called Zach Wilson garbage on national television.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Like Rodney Harrison, again, as a player, pretty good. Maybe a little bit overrated. But he's boring. Like he's a terrible analyst too.
He's not a good analyst. He's not a good analyst.
I'm getting sick and tired of Kansas City real fast.
Yeah. I've been sick and tired of Kansas City.
I don't want to really give them a lot of credit for what they've done because, if we're being honest, they haven't done anything this season. They've played like garbage in both of their wins. They've won 17-9 and then 23-20. Lost to Detroit and then beat the Bears.
Beat the Bears 41-10.
Oh, okay, great.
It doesn't matter. It's the Bears. Anybody could do that. But it's like people are legitimately
16 out of 32, 16 out of 31 other NFL teams could beat the Bears by 30. That is not impressive.
You know what's funny?
Kansas City, though,
I bet probably. I guarantee you Michigan, not guarantee. I bet Michigan beats the Bears.
No,
sincerely.
Yeah. No college football team is ever beating any NFL team. We literally went over this earlier.
Hey, let me be depressed. I'm just sinking into depression. Let me have that.
With the Chiefs, though, everybody thinks that like they're a Super Bowl contender. They really haven't looked that good. They haven't looked good. I don't know what about them. Just because they're the Chiefs and they're going to get the Brady ref BS in the playoffs. I mean, maybe, but I mean, you look at like actual teams. I think Buffalo, Miami, Baltimore, then Kansas City at the top of the.
Yeah, but you realize in any close game, the refs are going to blow them the hell out, and they're going to win every single game.
What?
When it comes down to the playoffs, they're gonna give the refs are gonna give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt almost every single time.
Not if Kansas City doesn't get the 1 seed. If Kansas City doesn't get the 1 seed, they got issues.
That's not gonna matter. They shouldn't have gotten it last year.
Yes, it is.
I think this is true. I think if Kansas City has to play a wild card game, even if it's at home, that causes them problems. Because they haven't.
Well, no, I think at home they win.
I'm just saying they haven't had to do that in years.
I don't think Mahomes has ever played in the wild card game.
They don't win their division. Yeah.
No, Mahomes has played a while. No, he hasn't.
Yeah,
I don't think he has. No,
2021. Who did they play 2021?
They've never played a wild card. Oh no, because the Titans were the 1 seed that year.
Yeah, who did they play in 2021?
Oh
I forgot.
boy.
No, that was
The Titans were the 1 seed in
7th seed?
2021.
Who did they beat? I forgot.
This is 2020, right?
No, 2021.
So they would have
got the
been
one in
2nd seed,
2021.
and the Bengals would have been the 6th seed that year.
No, the Bengals
was
were the
the
4
year-
in 2021.
2021. We can look this up. We all have computers.
They beat the Bills. They beat the Bills in the divisional.
Once?
No, in the wild card. They had to have been in the wild card.
Wait a
No,
minute. I
no,
don't
No, this was
played a
before the
wild
expansion.
card
This
game.
was before the expansion.
Yeah, it
We're
was.
so
Yeah, it
dumb.
was. Yes,
We're
it
so
was.
dumb. Okay.
Yes, yes, it was. So I think if they have to play a road wild card playoff
They will not
game,
have to play
it's
a
over.
road wild card game because they're going to win their division.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
probably.
they're not.
I mean, like once you get to like the conference championship divisional round, I think it gets a little dicey.
Yeah. I would not want to have to go on the road for that if you're Kansas City because
That's
they've
just a lot of
had the
strain.
luxury at playing at one of the biggest home field advantage stadiums in the league for a long time. Yeah.
Jags should have won that game at 2018.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some
That was-
ref ball, man?
Oh my God, that was just.
They haven't won a Super Bowl in which they haven't been bailed out by the officials or had some other scandal going on. Whether it's Robert Kraft in the Oriental Day Spa, or the Spygate from like the early 2000s, or the Deflategate. See, I could literally name 10 things that they've done to put themselves at an advantage over other good teams. And even when they have won the Super Bowl, they've never played well. They haven't played great in the Super Bowl.
No, see,
I
this
mean,
is interesting because that is actually very true. Every Super Bowl
It
they
is.
played. Now, obviously, this
Take a
makes
look at
sense.
it.
This makes sense. It's the two best teams in the league, like theoretically. But like, you'd think out of 6 Super Bowl wins, they'd have blown out in at least one.
They haven't.
I mean,
They haven't.
their best was probably the Rams, 13-3.
Oh yeah, but
No, their best was Their best was
It was a
Carolina
horrible
when they put up 32.
no, the best was the Falcons.
No, they
No,
played like
couldn't
shit
have
for
won
3
that.
quarters. You
But
can't
they did
base a
make that-
game off of one good quarter of football. They played terrible in the first half. The Carolina game was, which was Super Bowl 38. They played decent throughout the whole thing. But the Rams game, they had 20 points. The Philadelphia, they only scored 24. I mean, it's all right. Atlanta, you played terrible for 3 quarters. And then the Eagles one, they played well, but they lost. And then 53 was awful. And then I think that was it for New England, yeah. So they haven't done
That's
that.
a
Tom
big
Brady
if-
played well. They handled the Chiefs, and they.
I think if the Super Bowls ended after the third quarter, the Patriots would probably have like one in the past
Yeah.
The
20
dumbest,
years.
that's like the dumbest thing you've ever said. But
No, but he's got a point because they haven't played well for an entire game. And even in that game against Kansas City in Super Bowl 55 with Brady, his air yards were horrible. Tom Brady is a known dink and dunker.
That was a horrible Super Bowl because Kansas City was without their.
No, don't do that.
Brady,
No, don't do that.
dink and dunker.
No.
Prove me wrong. He doesn't throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, he does.
No, he
Well,
doesn't.
maybe not in like 2020 when he had noodle arm, but like 2014, that man was airing it out.
Go look at the tape. He's dink
I
and dunked
will
his
go
way.
look at the tape, and I will
Okay,
see.
yeah,
deep
go look
balls.
at it
I
and
will.
tell me. And you're gonna see that every game this guy played, he barely threw the ball past the line of scrimmage. They played the weakest game anybody's played the last 20 years, and it's not me being salty because I'm a Dolphins fan and the Patriots can go to hell. Maybe
it is you being
but
salty because you're a
They've
Dolphins fan. That's a
dinked
fact.
and dunked. Nothing about their win is impressive. You know what's impressive? Arizona with Kurt Warner almost throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns.
What do you think
And
Kurt
losing
Warner
to-
did? What do you think Kurt Warner was?
What do you-
Dink and dunk.
Right.
Every great quarterback.
What?
Since, yes.
Kurt Warner threw for 400 yards against
Brady
the
has thrown for
Steelers
400
defense.
yards
That's not-
constantly. And you say dink and
In
dunk.
his Super Bowls, he hasn't done that.
Every good game managing quarterback is a dink and dunk quarterback.
Listen, Tom Brady completed like 40. Let me look this up.
Gonna pull up some doofus stat.
No, hold on.
He's going to pull up an ESPN stat right here.
Tom Brady completed 43 passes for 62 out of 62 attempts for 466 yards. 43 completions to get you 466
what's the
yards.
What's the average air yards though?
The average doesn't matter because Drew Brees...
Yes, it does! Yes, it does!
Hold on. Drew Brees completed 32 passes out of 39 against Indy in the Super Bowl, and I think he threw for like 299 or like 280 something, and he dinked and dunked the entire game. It doesn't matter the average because you could throw a screen pass for 87
yards.
yards.
Matter, you dingus.
I didn't say passing yards. I didn't say the average yards per play. I said the average air yards. That is a different statistic.
Air yards is a different statistic, but you can go look at that and see that Brady...
That's what I asked.
Okay, I thought you meant average yards because if you just look at the average, that's not saying anything. You have to look at air yards, and when you look at Tom Brady, it's terrible. He dinks and dunks. He's a known dink and dunker.
Listen to me. Every single good quarterback is a known dink and dunker at some point in their career. Name me a good quarterback that hasn't dinked and dunked.
Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, Kurt Warner, Rich
Manning.
He throws the ball down the field like a man and doesn't throw check down.
Peyton Manning is the dink and dunker.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
Dink and dunker.
Why is he a dink and dunker?
Because he takes it.
Oh my God! 2015 Denver. He didn't throw a ball over 5 yards down the field, dude. Like
that's statistically and factually incorrect, but whatever.
You're statistically and factually a dumbass, so it all adds up.
Well, Morgan, I wouldn't expect anything less from you being at Arizona State. You could win games or whatever. I don't really care. It's the way how you win games. And Brady dinked and dunked, and you could. I'll go to the grave with this, so there's no point in continuing because this was a known dink and dunker and got away with beating my teams for like 15 years, so he can screw himself.
That makes me think that's just you being salty.
We'll be back next week. Some more sports banners, some more sports talk. Follow us on Instagram at On The Board Podcast, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.